So the next concept we will be discussing about is C++ user input strings. Okay. So we know that user input is a input or a data which is provided by the user. Okay. So using that input, we will be altering the program to give the required output. So now what we will be doing, the user input can be either of integer or a string. Okay. So now we will be using the string input data. So the same cin function is user for the input function. So I'm asking the user to input their first name. Okay. So I'm asking the user to input their first name. So before that, let me just write a small statement so that the user can understand. Enter your first name. So I will be just printing this statement so that the user understands what to enter. Okay. So enter your first name. So as soon as the user sees this, there will be a next cursor where the first name, the user can enter their first name. After that, I'm going to print the first name. Okay. So let me just clear this terminal, save the program, and then you can run the program. So as you can see, the compiler is asking enter your name. So I will enter John. So the John is printed now. What if I try to ask full name? So I'm going to ask the user their full name. So don't forget to add a small underscore there, full name. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to ask the user their full name. Okay. So what might be like the full name? The full name might be two words or two words where there is a gap between two words, right? So usually there is some sort of gap between the first name and the last name. Okay. So I'm going to run this program. Okay. Enter your full name. John Josh. Okay. So John Josh is my full name. So when I click on enter, so what is happening? Only the John is printed now. So why is this happening? So the Josh has been truncated or been ignored by the compiler. Why this happens is whenever the scene is taking some input from the data and once it finds some white space or space, it means that is the end of the line. So that is the end of the input. So compiler assumes that whenever it searches for the white space, it assumes that it will be the end of the input function. Okay. But what is the need? I want John Josh to be printed, which is having some gap between that, and I want this both the first name and last name to be printed in the output screen. So in this cases, what can be done? We can use a special function called as getline function. Okay. So instead of this c in, we will be using getline function, which is of c in type, and you will be asking the full name here. Okay. So you need to specify what your variable is asking. So it is asking for the full name and this is of cin. So you will be using this getline function to take the input from the user. So when I save this and run the program, let's check what happens now. Okay. Okay. So it is asking enter the full name. John Josh. So now you can see the whole line John George has been printed. So what is this getline? Why are we using this getline? Getline function is used to read a line of a text. Okay, so whenever we are entering some data, it usually reads the whole line. Okay, so that line is read by using the getline function, and this is the only reason we can use getline when there is multiple words in your input, or else if you have only one word, it is good to use cin. So this is upon your convenience what you are willing to use. Usually we use getline so that no data can be missed by the user. Okay, so the last concept in the string is omitting namespace. Okay, so as you can see, the on the line 13, you will be able to see this using namespace std. So what is this namespace std? So using the std, we can write any kind of C++ program. So you might see in some C++ program that runs without a standard namespace library, right? Without this line, we can run the program also. So there are some programs where you can observe it. Okay, so this line can be omitted and replaced by std keyword. Okay, so if at all you are not writing this line, so let me just comment this line so that we are not using this std line. So now this program might give you a small error because we are not using this std. Okay, but if you alter some lines here, so I'm going to take a small example to show you, that is std string greek. Okay, I'm going to write hello. So for cout, you need to use std cout. That is greek. Okay, so only at this time you might not be able to get any kind of error because you are using this std. But it seems to be very confusing to use such a huge thing for each and every line. So in order to avoid this, we will be using this namespace std. So it is upon your convenience what you need to use and how you can write a program. So I basically prefer using namespace std to avoid these lines. Okay, so this is how we omit std, omit the namespace std. Omit in the sense we are removing the namespace std. Okay, so this is about the string